Hi, welcome to Road Bike Culture. I'm your host, Kevin Isley. Today, we're going to talk about Major Taylor. Marshall Walter Taylor, born November 26, 1878 in Indianapolis, Indiana. He was one of 8 children. His grandfather was a slave, and his father fought for the Union in the Civil War. In 1887, his father was a carriageman, and he went to work for a rich white family named the Southards in Indianapolis. The Southards had a son named Daniel, who was about Marshall's age, and those two hit it off really well and became good friends. The Southards offered to take in Marshall to give him more experience, more education than he would have with his family, and his mother said that was okay. But when Marshall was 12, the Southards decided to move to Chicago. They offered to take Marshall with them, but his mother said, no, this is my son, I want him to be near me. So as a parting gift, they bought Marshall his first bicycle, and then he returned home to his family. Marshall loved his bicycle, and he learned to do a lot of tricks on that, and that caught the eye of Tom Hay, a local Indianapolis bike shop owner who hired Marshall to clean the store and do tricks out front to allure more customers into his store, and he paid him $6 a week. Marshall Taylor wore a soldier's uniform while doing these tricks, and that's how he got the name Major, and that stuck with him for the rest of his life. In 1892, Major Taylor took a job with T. Hershey Bike Shop, another Indianapolis bike shop, and he was hired to teach the patrons how to ride their new bicycle. In that same year, the bike shop owner asked Major Taylor to enter a local 10-mile bike race in Indianapolis. He told Major Taylor that you probably won't finish the 10-mile bike race, but just try to ride about a mile or two to get my shop's name out there. Not only did Major Taylor finish the 10 miles, he won it by 10 seconds. It was here that he met Louis Bertie Munger, owner of Munger Cycling Manufacturing Company, and they hit it off with their mutual love of bicycle racing, and Mr. Munger saw a lot of potential in Major Taylor. He knew Major Taylor could be a champion cyclist, so he coached him into becoming that. And it was during this time that Major Taylor joined the Seesaw Cycling Club, an all-black cycling club in Indianapolis, and he trained with them. Major Taylor raced in amateur races from 1892 until 1896 when he turned 18 years old. Major Taylor's first significant win came in 1895 when he entered a 75-mile grueling race in Indianapolis. A lot of the white competitors refused to race with him, and those who did gave him threats against his person if he competed. He was the only competitor to finish the 75-mile race. Seeing the potential in Major Taylor, Mr. Munger moved his bicycle manufacturing company to Worcester, Massachusetts, a much more tolerant part of the country. Once in Massachusetts, Major Taylor had access to higher profile races and more money from sponsors. There, he joined the all-black Albion Cycling Club, and he trained at the YMCA of Worcester, Massachusetts. His first major East Coast win came in New Haven, Connecticut, in the League of American Wheelmen's 1-mile race. Mr. Taylor was forced to start last in that race, and he won the event. Major Taylor's last amateur race came in Jamaica, New York on November 26th, his 18th birthday. He came in 14th place, and after that, he turned pro. Once Major Taylor turned pro, he emerged as the most formidable racer in America. His first pro race was in New York's Madison Square Garden on December 5th, 1896. He won that race in front of 5,000 people, and this qualified him for the 6-day race the next day. He started the race with 28 competitors, and by the end there were only 14 competitors left, and he dropped out after day 5, saying there was somebody chasing him with a knife. The hallucination that he was going through extreme stress and lack of sleep caused him to hallucinate. Mr. Taylor completed 1,732 miles in 142 hours, placing him in 8th place. Teddy Hale was the winner of the race, completing 1,910 miles, giving him the $5,000 purse. Major Taylor never raced another 6-day race in his life. The 1897 Pro Tour race was really exceptional for Major Taylor, and the newspapers loved him, and they wrote a lot of articles about him with nicknames such as the Worcester Whirlwind, the Black Cyclone, the Ebony Flyer, the Colored Cyclone, and the Black Zimmerman. One of Major Taylor's main supporters was President Theodore Roosevelt, who followed closely to Major Taylor's 17-year career. In November and December of 1897, when the pro circuit went down to the segregated South, no race promoter would allow Major Taylor to compete in the race, so he had to go back to New England. Because of this, Major Taylor did not accumulate enough points to be the sprint champion, and Eddie Bald became the American sprint champion of 1897. In the season of 1898 and 1899, Major Taylor racked up 7 world records. His 1-mile record from a standing start of 1 minute 41 seconds stood for 28 years. In the 1899 World Cycling Championship race in Montreal, Canada, Major Taylor became the first African American to win a world championship cycling race, and he was the second black to win a world championship of any sport. George Dixon, a Canadian-born featherweight boxer, won the world championship in 1891. In 1900, Major Taylor went head-to-head against Tom Cooper, the 1899 NCAA champion, in Madison Square Garden in front of 60,000 people, and he won that race. Following his record-breaking season of 1899 and 1900, Major Taylor agreed to race in Europe in 1901. Major Taylor was really popular in Europe among cycling fans and the press, and he won 47 of his 52 competitions he enrolled in. He was mobbed everywhere he went. He was a real celebrity. Every year Major Taylor raced, he broke world records. He won the majority of competitions he entered. He became the first African-American celebrity athlete. But systemic racism in the United States would prove to be his biggest adversary. Some white racers would refuse to race against Major Taylor, while others resorted to intimidation, verbal threats, and threats to hurt him. While racing in Savannah, Georgia, Major Taylor received a written letter saying, "If you value your life, get out." While others would say, "I don't pace," well, you know that next word. On September 23rd, 1897, in the Massachusetts Open, Major Taylor outsprinted William Becker for a second-place finish. William Becker, at the end of the race, tackled Major Taylor to the ground and choked him until he was unconscious. William Becker received a $50 fine for that. While racing in Australia in 1904, Yvonne Lawson veered his bike into the front wheel of Major Taylor, causing a horrific crash and leaving him unconscious on the track until he was evacuated to a hospital. Yvonne Lawson received a 1-year suspension from all bicycle races around the world for that incident. Major Taylor retired from cycling in 1910 with an estimated net worth of $100,000 or $2.6 million in today's money. Major Taylor retired to Worcester, Massachusetts, where he bought a home. He applied to engineering school, but because he never completed high school, he was not permitted to enter the college. So he became an entrepreneur and started many businesses and invested in others. Nearly 20 years after he retired, he wrote and self-published his autobiography, The Fastest Bicycle Rider in the World. By 1930, Major Taylor fell on hard times, from the stock market crash to poor business investments and the self-publishing of his own book. He had to sell his house and other property to settle the debts that he owed, and then he got divorced and he moved to Chicago. Living in the YMCA at Chicago, he sold his book on the street to try to make enough money to feed himself. On June 21st, 1932, Major Taylor suffered a massive heart attack and he died. His wife and daughter were not notified of his death and nobody claimed his body, so he was buried in a pauper's unmarked grave. In 1948, a group of former professional cyclists, using the funds donated by Frank A. Schwinn, owner of the Schwinn Bicycle Company, exhumed his body and placed him in a more prominent position in the cemetery. To put Major Taylor's accomplishments into perspective, the 13th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, which abolished slavery across the country, was passed in 1865, 13 years before Major Taylor was born. Major Taylor became a professional cyclist 51 years before Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball. Well, I think that just about covers it. The story and legacy of Major Taylor, the first African-American world championship cyclist. If you like this episode, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button. And as always, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm everywhere. And until the next time, I hope to see you out there on the road.